Welcome to Subramani. I'm going to talk to you about what can go wrong in investing while in retirement. So, what is the biggest risk in retirement? Many people ask me, and I tell them very simple: running out of money much before you die. So, if you run out of money at 78 and you live till 94, which means 16 years you have to live depending on somebody else. Could be your children, could be your siblings, could be anybody, right? So being dependent on others, physically, mentally, financially, if nothing is very good, right? So especially if you have lived till the age of 78 on your own, let's say at 23, 24 you started earning, and at 78 you run out of money, life is not going to be very great. So what are the reasons why you could run out of money? First is inflation, in the sense that we have got used to a very benign type of inflation since 2014. 2022 we saw some inflation, but even now we keep saying that 6% is too high, 7% is too high. Remember, this is a country which in the 90s and even early 2000s saw inflation of 13-14%. We saw Reliance Industries paying 18% interest on its bonds. That high inflation was that high. So inflation is high, and when inflation is high, you have made another mistake of selling out all your equity. You found one good advisor who said, you are now 60 years of age, you have retired, so you should sell all your equity and put it into government senior citizen saving schemes, etc., because you will get a good 6% or good 7% return. That is killed by inflation. So the thing is, you put too much, you withdrew everything from stocks. That can be a disastrous thing for your portfolio at 60. That's not a bad strategy at 85, but it is a disastrous strategy at 60, right? Third is putting too much money into equity. There is another category of people who have got their ESOPs, etc. So they put all their money into equity, saying, I will live off the dividend. Not true. You have to take some money, maybe 50-60% of all that, and put it into bonds, right? So this is exactly the reverse of the earlier example of putting too little in stocks. Putting too much in stocks can be another dangerous thing. The another important thing, I'm not numbering them right now. I think we have done 3, not worrying about inflation being the first. So underestimating how long you will live. I don't know from where people get that feeling, I will live till 74 or something like that. From somewhere they pick up some number and say that's my date, right? That's not true. You can live very long. You can live till the age of, you estimate to live till 80, you could live till 95. So extra 15 years. I'm not talking of 1 or 2 years. So completely wrong about estimating how long you will live. That is post-COVID. I'm adding one very important thing. Maybe this should have been the first one. Is being completely crippled by the hospital bills to handle for a loved one. You paid for your son, daughter, wife, grandchild, doesn't really matter. It can completely cripple you. Somebody who's retired with a limited budget of say 1 crore and pays out 30 lakhs for the spouse's COVID care is just out, paid off, and if the spouse survives, then both of them have to live on a smaller corpus of 70 lakhs. That's not going to be very easy. So underestimating medical expenses and therefore being underinsured, right? So could insurance have helped? Maybe yes, maybe no, but whatever. I'm just citing out the problems. I'm not suggesting solutions here. So having adequate insurance, but then understand that as age increases, insurance premiums will also be higher. But it makes a lot of sense, especially when something like COVID hits and you are wiped out. You realize, oh my God, I wish I had more insurance. There is nobody who ever came and told I had too much of life insurance or too much of medical insurance. Never happens, right? So people will always find that there's little short of insurance, never long on insurance. Another important thing is ignoring taxation. Amazingly stupid to keep all the money in bank fixed deposits and saying, I feel very safe and secure only if it is in a bank deposit near my house. Sounds very, very stupid. Even with changes in taxation for the debt funds, it still makes sense for people to keep some money in debt funds and pay tax only when you withdraw, or keep money in multi-asset funds and pay equity tax or 20% tax plus indexation, right? It makes sense. So don't ignore taxation. Then paying too much for children's education and grandchildren's education. People have definitely overpaid many cases out of guilt or whatever reasons, or saying, oh, in this country the upper caste cannot get a seat, so I'm sending my son to Australia, Canada, anywhere. They even happy to send them to Brazil or Bangladesh or Ukraine to get admission in medical or some such place. That completely cripples many people. Out of the 2 crores that you have, you cannot afford to spend 1.5 crores on children's education, or out of the 6 crores that you have, you cannot afford to spend 3 crores on children's education. People are doing it, and people are selling their land and house to get them seats abroad. Even asking children to go to New Zealand and saying, oh, how will your son live in New Zealand? My son will give tuitions. You think it's easy that a person just lands at the airport and gets a tuition? It will take him 6 months to even understand what the local people are saying. So it's not going to be very relevant. But be careful of overspending on children's education. It is impossible for you to recover it, because many countries in the world are growing at 1%. It's very difficult for your children to return the money that you've spent, even if they wish to. If they don't wish to, then you're anyway doomed, right? So this spending too much on children's education, and now spending too much on grandchildren's education. Be careful about it, because longevity or inflation or one such factor can completely exhaust you and cripple you in terms of finances. People don't realize that they are spending too much. I normally see the reverse, right? People just spending too less. They're leaving a much bigger corpus for their children. That is the norm. Most people do that. Middle class people just can't spend money even when they see their net worth at 10 crores or 8 crores or whatever. I'm talking of retired people around 70 years of age. I know an 85-year-old who calls me and says, these are some shares in my portfolio, what should I do? His son is abroad, no chance of coming back, and it is completely irrelevant. So I said, let it be there, because you can live off the dividend. He could have just sold it and put it in a bank account, but he says, oh, but this Reliance is good, HDFC Bank is good, and Tata Motors is good. So then you can't get into too much of an argument, but then people do it, right? So spending too much is a big reason why people get run out of money. I'm talking of all those things which the risks of retiring and risk of running out of money. Depending too much on one source of deposit. One retired pilot, I think he retired from Jet Airways, had not got his dues, and when he got his dues, he went and put it in Punjab and Maharashtra Cooperative Bank, PMC, right? So the PM, and all his money was gone. So some huge risk like that. So you could, this could happen because the bank in which you put was Cooperative Bank, which just went under. You could have put it in a company where it could have got lost, or you could have been scammed into parting with a big portion of your money. If you're trying to retire with 1 crore and you're scammed of 20 lakhs by whatever reason, share your OTP or things like that, that can completely cripple you. And I've seen that happening. I've seen one guy who did a movie financing, right? So completely brought to ruin. He had got some lottery ticket money and completely brought to ruin. So spending too much, getting scammed, these are depending on one single source of income. What happens if that income fails for whatever reasons? There are people who will put all their money in only one bank. I mean, as long as it's State Bank of India, it's fine. But even then, why would you take a chance? Why would you not put it into an HDFC Bank, ICICI Bank and State Bank, right? Putting into 2-3 banks. I'm not even saying that anything can happen to these 3 banks. These 3 banks sound very solid. But if you keep all your money in just interest-bearing instruments, and if inflation is high and you live too long, you run the risk that you will run out of money. Because see, none of these factors by themselves can kill you. If you put a lot of money in equity and you're spending too much, you might be able to live. But if you're put your money in equity, you're spending too much and there is a downturn, that can ruin you. You can't get all the equation parts of the equation right. So when A and B work and C doesn't work, you will live. But if A fails, B fails, C fails, that is a time when you can run out of money, right? Then also sometimes it happens that you want to retire at 60, you have planned your life, but at 52 you are unable to work. So you are now putting together a smaller corpus, and the worst thing is you are anyway going to live long. So again, this combination of two factors, that you have retired earlier than what you wanted to, but you have lived too long, or some COVID hits you. Any of those things are possible. So be careful about those things. So you have a lesser corpus. Falling ill is bad, not just for you, but for somebody else whom you are helping, right? So your spouse, your children, or whatever. Withdrawing from the wrong account. I have always felt that when the markets are booming, like currently I would think the market is high, and you want to spend money, withdraw from your equity, right? So if you're, say, 65 years of age or 63 years of age, and you have a lot of money in equity, it's not a bad time to be selling some of that and buying a deferred annuity starting at 75. You're protecting your cash flow from the age of 75. What happens if you die before the age of 75? What happens if you die at the age of 74? Absolutely no problem. You can always, the family will get back the amount which you have invested, maybe with some nominal rate of interest, right? So don't ignore taxation. That is another big mistake that people make. I think I've exhausted that, being underinsured, right? All those things I think I've covered. Thank you. So very important that if you don't want to run out of money, manage your asset allocation, manage your equity, manage your everything well. If you think you can do it, great. If you don't think you can do it, or 2 years into the retirement and you start panicking, get professional help. It is too late in life to try to learn how to manage your investments, right? You know how to accumulate. It does not mean you know how to withdraw, right? Thank you.